with a gun here. Last time I was messing around with my Beretta series pistols to do that previous video, I had purchased a new trigger bar for my Beretta 9-2 from Langdon Tactical. I'd made several attempts to install that trigger bar prior to filming that video where I was comparing all my Berettas, and something was goofy after I did that install, and I thought it was just the trigger bar, but the trigger itself was having a hard time resetting all the way. So I was getting in a situation where I would have to force the trigger back forward again. You know, mostly just dry firing it. Obviously, I haven't been to the range in a bit of a tick, so I don't know if it was going to be an issue cycling, but quite frankly, if it doesn't dry fire proper, that just gives me cause for concern. This remains my wife's favorite nightstand gun, so this shit's got to work. So what I did was I bought a trigger job in a bag, figuring that when I did purchase this gun, it was used. And I don't really know how many rounds were through it by the time I got a hold of it. And then since then, I do know that we've put a shit ton of rounds through it. So it could just very well be that this thing's getting some tired springs in there. So I'm gonna rebuild the back end of the gun and see if that helps. If it's the trigger spring itself, then I'm just fucked because that doesn't come with this kit. But this is the Langdon Tactical trigger job in a bag. And comes with the sear and sear spring, new hammer and hammer spring, what do they call it? Strut. And the main spring and the trigger bar that I already had, but whatever. So this was about, if I remember right, it was like 135 bucks or something like that. And I bought it I didn't buy it direct from Langdon Tactical. I actually found it cheaper through just some other Google searching. So I'm gonna give this a whirl, and I'm gonna keep the camera rolling. I'll probably do some speed ups. I have another video from a different guy that actually takes apart the gun. I've never done this before, so this should be funny, at least to a viewer, when the spring starts shooting all over the goddamn place. And I'll be cussing quite a bit, so I'll edit it in and out as needed on the back end. But I figure I'm just gonna roll the camera while I'm doing this and cuss away and try not to destroy my wife's nightstand gun. So without further ado, away I go.
Feel the
interject and just point out that the kit did actually come with a new return spring for the trigger, which might actually be most of what I'm seeing as a problem. But the install of this is really tricky because you have to, there's a pin that holds the trigger in place and it rides right through the spring and the trigger itself. You got to get it all seated in here, and then there's this little tiny divot. I don't know if that it's going to be clear, but there's just a little tiny divot in the frame where that pointed dingus of this spring right there is supposed to sit into that divot. Trying to get that lined up and staying in place. And the guy in this video that I'm watching on the side, you know, he had his little trick that he says to use, but I'm trying it and it ain't working so well. So
a few moments later.
So now we're gonna find out if I just destroyed this pistol by being a fucking retard. And if I did, then that'd be a good time to tell you about today's sponsor, which is the Sonoran Desert Institute. If y'all want to be a gunsmith and actually know what the fuck you're doing, instead of just farting around in your garage and breaking shit, then go get an education. And who knows, maybe Biden will give it to y'all for free. Well, that's lovely. So as you can see, the double action no longer works.
A few moments later.
Okay, well, I think I got it sorted out. And one big change you're gonna notice right off the bat is I went back to the stock grip panels. And I think part of my issue was actually the Hogue, well, I guess it's Beretta branded, so they're not Hogue, but these they are Hogue branded, it says it right yonder. Anyway, these guys, this rubber molded stuff was actually rubbing.
No, he didn't slam you, he didn't bump you, he didn't nudge you, he rubbed you. And rubbing's son is racing.
And we all know rubbing's racing, but when it comes to rubbing on your gun parts and shit like that, that's what perverts do. And right here, I think it was getting hung up on the Langdon tactical trigger bar. So what we got here is I put the original Langdon tactical trigger bar in here that I had acquired a few months back before I shot that earlier video. And this one, because it was having the cycling problems, I did what Langdon said to do on his website, which was to just basically put a Dremel to just this little dingus on the back, get it in frame here, right there, just a little bit, just a tiny bit to take some of the metal there. But he was basically saying it shouldn't be a measurable amount. You should just be kind of tweaking it for fitment to your specific pistol. And I had done that to this one. Now, this is the one that actually came with the kit. It's still back in the kit with all the other old spare parts. And this one had been previously modified, but I never still could get it to work. So I went back to the stock trigger bar in this one. And even that was not resetting properly. So now on double action, which is where I was having the problems, not only does it cycle, but the trigger's resetting fine. with the old plastic grips that I think there's enough clearance that I'm not getting any contact between the grip panel and the trigger bar.
But wait, there's more.
Did some good old detective work there.
We said no. Wrong.
To show you the benefits of this overall package, the trigger pull double action is heavy, but that's what you want for a double action trigger. What I will say though is it is just smooth. Like, there's no creep, there's no nothing. Did just get hung up there for a sec. But the coolest part is this reset. Boom, negligible. And then the single action pull will make you surprised every single time. This thing is, there's no weight to this. So this thing can be stupid fast. So we'll find out. Take it to the range. Came with the new hammer, which it's skeletonized. It looks pretty, but I don't think this offers any actual benefit to performance. The trigger reset spring, which was a real bitch to get in, but now that it's in there, you know, it's working. So that's cool. Came with the main spring and a modified hammer strut, which really they just polished. I'm pointing this shit and it's not even in frame. They just polished the tip of this thing.
Just the tip?
So the surfaces that are making contact metal to metal, it's been polished. So it is, you know, it feels stupid smooth when you cock the hammer.
Cock the hammer, it's time for action! Cock the hammer!
This thing, if it just gave a couple more years of life to this pistol, then I'm gonna be happy. I know my wife will be happy because, again, this is her favorite thing to shoot in the full size on the 9mm side of things. She still actually likes my Kimber 1911 most of all, but, you know, she's a woman.
What did you say?
But there you go. That was an interesting, and you can still see every once in a while, it still just gets a little hung up. I don't know. I'm going to keep working it, and I did clean it all up in there as I was taking everything apart. You might have seen little bits of that. I don't know if I'm going to fast forward or just chop it to bits, because that turned out to be like 35 minutes of footage, and most of it was me fumbling trying to get the damn trigger back in place. So we'll see how it ends up playing out when I edit it all up and try and make it entertaining for y'all. But yeah, if I can't get it to work, then I'll take it to a real gunsmith and, you know, somebody who graduated from Sonoran Desert Institute, sponsor of today's video. And I say that in jest because nobody sponsors my videos because nobody knows who the fuck I am. But y'all know who I am. So, and I love y'all for it. Anyway, thank y'all for watching. Well, I fixed it. And I stumbled across a video on YouTube, and I'll put a link in the video description below just in case anybody else ever experiences the same kind of problem. But the video is from a gentleman by the name of XD Man. And what he did was show how to reinstall the trigger bar proper, like if you fully disassemble the gun. And the problem that I was having, and I'll do my best to show it, but right here is a spring, the leg of a spring. And when I was reinstalling the trigger bar, that spring was behind the arm. Oh, you can't see shit from there. It was behind the arm of the trigger bar, so it was floating around back here. So this was not being reinstalled properly, which explains why I didn't start having problems with the trigger reset until after I installed a new trigger bar. And so the video explained a little trick to use a wire, or in this case a paper clip, to yank that thing forward as you're reinstalling the trigger bar, and voila, it is now properly reinstalled. And prove that I ain't just making shit up. And most of our problems were on double action. So that's completely fine. Single action works like a charm. So, not that the gentleman will ever find me, but if XD Man should ever stumble across this video, I want to thank you for an excellent tutorial on how to reinstall the trigger bar. So now I have the full kit fully reinstalled. Everything's good to go. I could probably put those Hope grips back on, but for the moment, I just prefer the feel of these, so I'll wait until my wife yells at me to put the other ones back on. But yeah, so my baby's back up and running, and with all the new springs and everything in there, I'm hoping to get quite a few more rounds out of this sucker before she dies. So anyway, that's the update, and I want to thank y'all for watching.
I don't know who you are out there, but I have a gun.